Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of connection to that which is bigger than us, to the great mystery, to beyond the veil. And we come into this mythic space together because spirit is actually very mythic. It's not mundane. And we bring it all into that mythic space and share the hero's journey, the heroine's journey, the story of how we came to be. And I'm your host, Carrie Hummingbird. I love these discussions. These are just such a blessing for me. They illuminate me. They give me that depth that I crave, that I just so thirsty for, that depth of the human experience, out of the shallows, into the deep waters. And if you're like that too, well, then I encourage you to keep listening to this podcast because I love depth and you're going to find a lot of it here. And you can really practice all your swim moves, you're not encumbered by any kind of bottom or anything. And if you like to have these conversations, you got two of us on this broadcast today. Oh my Lord, all you empathic people are going to have a field day today. Really going to have fun. So, just hit us up. You can always book a little 15-minute conversation with me on my website, carriehummingbird.com, Kerri, hummingbird.com. We'll have a little chat and just see where you're at. And today's guest is Sarah Weiss, and you can also hit her up. Sarah, welcome.
Hello, it's so exciting to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, Sarah, I'm so happy you're here. Sarah is just, one of those gems that I found along my path of spreading this message of the second wave. And I am so grateful this dot got connected, because there's just like, as you'll hear, there's a depth and resonance to Sarah when she speaks, and that's because of all the work that she's done to bring herself into love and bring herself into mastery. And it's just such a blessing. She hosts the Earth Love Spirit podcast. I have an interview on that podcast. I'll link to it in the show notes. And she's a feature writer for the Sedona Journal of Emergence. She's also the director and creator of the Spirit Heal Institute for Intuition and Healing. And her purpose really is to awaken, activate, and empower those who resonate with grounded and multidimensional spirituality. Grounded and multidimensional. I just want you to hear that, because that's really powerful. She's been doing this for 45 years, training with spiritual masters from many traditions. She's a student and teacher in the Sufi tradition, the Andean tradition, which is, that's my people, my Karo. I love my Karo people. And also the Taoist tradition. So she has also received a direct transmission from Mother Earth to teach the feminine mysteries. And so we are so aligned there, Earth Mother. Sarah Weiss, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's so nice to be here. And let's just greet the spirit of the land and our dear mother, Mother Earth, for a moment. That means dropping down into your body, actually coming downward instead of floating upward, and coming in, feeling the sinking into your body, feeling your seat on your chair, feeling your feet on the ground, and reconnecting to the wholeness of you, because we are nothing without our connection to the mother. We are nothing. We are just like flattened cardboard. We don't come alive until that connection reconnects when we're born here. And our Western culture really hasn't recognized what happens when we get birthed here. In the Taoist tradition, there's a tradition of when a child is birthed, that you reconnect their energy system to the planet and create a wholeness within their own system, so that when the umbilical cord is cut, they reconnect your energy so it's cycling perfectly within you, not left dangling. And then the reconnection to earth and heaven occurs at the moment of your birth. And so compared to that, how ignorant are we in our Western culture, and what a deficit we start with without that teaching at the moment of our birth.
That is so powerful, Sarah. And you just gave me a huge confirmation of a download I got from White Buffalo Calf Woman for my book, where she
Ah,
essentially says in there that we um, it's like soul midwifery. We midwife the
Hmm.
soul into the body as the mother, and we actually connect the soul inside its body, like connect it so that it comes out, it's ready to go. And there's no, and the earth amnesia is because we don't do that. That's why the earth amnesia is there. That's why it
It,
exists.
isn't it amazing? I mean, I can't believe people walk along the earth and they think they're just like the earth is just kind of a floor to
Yeah,
walk
it's
on.
it's just a floor, that's all.
It's
And it,
just a floor, and like there's nothing else there. It's like tile, linoleum, whatever, dirt, wood, but it's just a floor for me to go and do whatever I please on this in my disconnected way. And what kind of damage and havoc is created by that? You know, we're not standing on a floor. We're being held by a living being. We're being held in a way that we wished most people are wishing they could be held, and we're already being held that way. All we have to do is like forget about the floor and connect to the livingness that is here with us.
yeah, and open to receive the livingness or to acknowledge, not even receive, acknowledge the livingness within us. Because, and we are made of earth. We can't escape her. This is what I don't understand, Sarah, is people that think that we can go to another planet. Like, not in this body. This body is made on earth. So this incarnation and any incarnation you live with an earth body is belongs on earth, is where it belongs.
Right. And we can go to another planet, but not in an Earth body. We can journey all over the cosmos if we recognize the living connections with them. You know, they're not another place to land on a floor. They're another
It's a
being.
consciousness.
It's a consciousness. It's another being to come into relationship
Yeah.
with, really. So feel your feet, feel your seat, feel the energy running through you, feel those centers on the soles of the feet that are exchanging energy with the earth and with the heart of Mother Earth. And if you can drop down into that sensing world of your being, you can start to become nourished in a way that you never even imagined. And you can walk around like this 24/7. You don't have to ever be connected from this. And that's the true miracle of being here. I mean, the whole mystery is right at our feet. It's not way up in the air, even. It's right at our feet. And we all can connect that way. It's not limited to any master or special person that can do it. I mean, I think I've taught over 40,000 people how to do it. So it's available to anyone who's interested. And you can feel it right now. Can you
Yeah, you
feel it in
can.
your legs?
Yes, it comes up. You
Right.
don't even have to have your feet on the actual earth once you know how to ground. You just
Right.
even if you were in a high rise in New York City, you could still ground.
Yep,
You
in an
gotta you've
airplane.
gotta imagine it a little bit more differently, but you can do it. You can do it in an airplane, exactly. I often stay grounded in the airplane while I'm going. And I just envision that like I've got my little anchor point in the earth, and then as I'm flying, it's just going like this,
Right? Right.
like taking me wherever I
It's
need to go. And I'm like, but I don't lose myself that way because if you travel without doing that, you've got to like collect back all the pieces
right,
and
right.
pull because they got distributed everywhere. So you got to like pull it all back in. That's why you get so disoriented when you take a long airline trip and then you get to the place and you're exhausted.
It's like bring it all back together. But when our kids were little, we have two daughters who are 38, 36 now, and we taught them how to work with energy since they were 1 or 2 years old. And every night before bed, we would have them journey into their bodies so that they could connect directly with their bodies, understand they can do internal viewing. And it actually changes from internal viewing to being present to the fullness of you. So that we think that between the front and back of the body, it's just kind of this vague dark space that only like MRIs and X-rays can see. But we are that space between the front and back and sides of our body, and we forget that. And it's so simple, really, to come back in and start inhabiting your being and the totality of your being when you understand that it's all consciousness. So when the kids were little, we did this every night before they fell asleep, to the point where even when they were by 3 years old, they would want to guide us in the process.
Oh, I love that.
And then at the dinner table, we would practice playing footsies under the earth with our energy. And when we were driving, this reminded me of what you were saying with flying, they would say, well, if we're grounding when we're driving, won't we stop the car?
I love little kids'
Yeah,
brains.
right, right.
So awesome.
So yeah, so I mean, kids can be taught this real simply right at the beginning. It's pretty
It just takes
amazing.
the awareness yourself, and as a mother, it's so important to embody that awareness, if you can, before you have your children. And if you can't, that's okay. You can always kind of recapitulate and or start where you are right now and move forward, right? So there's never too late. For those of you out
Absolutely.
there who are like, oh no, I didn't know that, and I wish I taught my kids that. Just take a
Right.
deep breath because it's okay. You can start now.
Right. And everything that we do as we grow and learn, and believe me, I mean, no matter how hard you try to press, how hard you try to get more awareness or consciousness, it's kind of a programmed unfolding that we have
Yeah.
within us. And as long as we kind of walk pushing, pulling, pressing, it's going to unfold, and there's no comparison with another person. Your initiations will come, and they will come. I just had one again last week. I mean, I got to a point where I was praying, no more initiations, no more
And Divine
initiations.
Mother says,
You
oh, you
know,
want some more? Would you like a
right,
really big one?
right.
Oh, you're resisting.
Don't blow up my life again, you know?
She's so loving.
So, uh, but you know, that's the beauty of what you're calling the second wave. Because, wow, you know, if you can come along with this, even those who are in the older generations can really let go of that entire history. Their entire history can dissolve, and you can emerge with a new understanding of yourself, new identity, and keep going forward in a beautiful way. And it's really exciting. So,
That's what I love about you when we first had our first conversation, is your willingness, because I consider you to be part of the first wave. And for those of you who are
mhm.
listening who maybe haven't heard this podcast a lot, we talk about the first wave, the second wave. That's all based on Dolores Cannon's work. So if you want to look that up, Dolores Cannon, she does this process, taught this process called QHHT. She's now on the other side of the veil teaching the process, but she wrote this book called The Three Waves of Volunteers, and that is really, this. So Sarah has this, and many first wave volunteers have this opportunity now to not only have done your first wave work, but if you're feeling like really juicy and excited, come on with the second wave, because we're just getting our steam up, right?
Absolutely. So, you know, I had a very traditional spiritual training, you know, where there was a hierarchical kind of setup where you had a teacher that you received activations from um, that was kind of almost felt like they were in charge of your evolution, you know. And at that time, prior to just a couple years ago, that was the way that spiritual transmission occurred. Okay. And there were a few people that had attained higher states of consciousness and they could pass that on. Well, we've gone through a huge shift where each person has that accessible to themselves. And there's no barriers to any kind of expansion of consciousness for anyone. Every single person has that direct line open now. It wasn't exactly open the last 60, 70, 100, 5,000 years. But
However long that was that we were in
right,
darkness,
right.
the dark period.
Right. But it is now. And so I had to adjust. I had to adjust from the old paradigm kind of teaching and thinking to this new paradigm. And I had to let go of everything. I had to let go of the love for my beloved teachers because I revered them. And I always felt like, oh, am I going to be a good representative for them? Am I going to learn as fast as I can for them? And it was always in relationship to them. And that was the paradigm, actually. And so as this new paradigm came through, it was like, oh my God, freedom. And then I had to get over, like, am I doing something spiritually incorrect by really embracing my direct unfolding as me? Like, I'm not unfolding according to a teaching.
Yes.
And am I betraying that teaching right now? And that is like what someone who's moving from the first wave to the second wave, whether it's in a religious context or a spiritual context or some kind of even corporate hierarchical context. We were trained a certain way, and that was the modality. And so as I moved into the second wave and started embracing just the direct revelation, and it didn't quite fit the format of what all the spiritual teachings were. There was a period of time where I felt, oh my God, am I betraying my teacher? And even one of the groups that I was involved in kind of ostracized me for moving on. I really wanted to share this with them. I thought, okay, I'm just going to resign from any kind of teaching position in that group and let's just open this up. But they're still like stuck in the old paradigm of that hierarchical structure. And so I was just kind of pushed out of that and had to go through a lot of changes from moving from the old paradigm to the new one. And that's why I love talking to people like you and all the different people I get to talk to on my podcast, because it's like fresh air for me. They're not stuck in this old stuff. And so it's very exciting. And take a moment again to just feel your feet and your connection to Mother Earth as we're talking here, because she's starting to really make her presence known here, and hopefully you'll be able to feel
I can
her.
feel it. Yeah, it's coming
Yeah.
in.
Uh-huh.
It's like, but the message I keep getting is that any way I'm grasping or trying to funnel people through me as a means of accessing her, then what I'm doing is actually saying, I don't trust that I'm going to have sustainability after everybody finds her, or I'm not going to, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
I feel like I need to be the gatekeeper for this because that way I can like take a toll on the way in. And that is no bueno anymore. She is going direct and great spirit going direct. And then because how else are we going to turn this planet around if every person isn't awake? Like we have to do this together. So she's
Yes.
activating every person directly. And you might be the inspiration, like these podcasts that I do, which I love these podcasts. But this just one episode could be the inspiration. Like somebody could instantly wake up just from listening to this. Another person
Yes.
might go, oh, you know what? I need a little support from Sarah, or I need a little support from Carrie to get there. So everybody's unique, and we just trust that as we move through this process, things get into right relationship with our gifts because we all do have special gifts to share.
I love that. And I love what you said about taking a toll. I mean,
Yeah.
like being not taking a toll on ourselves, but actually it does take a toll if you have that mindset, like they have to go through me, you know. But taking a toll, like whether it's in recognition or payment for a session or reverence or whatever it is, um, and so that's
Well, I
part
mean,
of
if
that
they're
old
helping you, if you're,
paradigm.
there's a difference. Like when I guess what I'm
Yes.
saying there is like, if
Oh, no, no, no.
someone,
I think
yeah,
I understood exactly,
okay.
but go ahead and explain it.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
just because everybody's confused.
Uh-huh.
So the taking a toll thing for me is kind of like, you have to go through this tradition and these activations and
Mm-hmm.
my programs and be in, you know, and do this long standing thing in order to awaken if you choose this path, right? So here's how it goes. And then I'm going to collect a little toll along the way, like while you do it, right? So whatever
Right.
the toll is, for some people it's money, for some people it's devotion, you know, whatever that toll is. Like sit at my knees, like Muji. I've seen this so many times.
Mm-hmm.
People sitting at his knees and just like, you know, in rapture, you know, this kind of like that sort of thing. And I'm not called to that. I'm called to very open-handedly say, here is the connection. It's right here in this broadcast. It's freely acquired because I don't own it. It's the Divine Mother comes through me and you, and she offers it. So now, if you want to talk to me and like have us get some support in working through your connection, well, that's a reciprocity, and that's a whole different thing.
Yes, it is. And that's the other thing that's different between the old paradigm and the new paradigm, that you were never supposed to have to pay for spiritual teaching. And when, you know, I was very much involved in the spiritual aspect of the healing of the traditions that I was taught in, and it became very clear when I was 27 years old, Saturn return time, when my grandfather, who was a well-known physician in the Ohio area where I am, and he was well known for diagnosing people's conditions instantly.
Mm.
So when people didn't know what was going on, when other doctors didn't know what was going on, they sent them to my grandfather. And I don't know, there was a whole tradition of intuitive diagnosis that was going on with physicians for the last couple hundred years. I don't know if you know that.
No, I didn't know that. That's
Yes.
amazing. And you were in that family line, which means you inherited those gifts too.
Right. So, but people didn't talk about it like that. It was like, oh, he's a MD, go to see him, he'll tell you what's going on, right? But nothing about intuition. But it was behind the scenes. And so when he died when I was 11, and when I was 27, he came to me in a vision, opened the top of my head like you'd opened a teapot, and he poured his whole being into my being.
I totally understand that.
And I woke up the next morning as a medical intuitive. I mean, literally, all of a sudden, that was activated in me. Okay. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, I have another purpose here besides the spiritual teachings I've received on healing. I have this other part of me that is here to serve and cultivate and develop too. And so I really went through a period of time where I didn't quite know what to do with holding the teachings I was receiving in an honoring and sacred way, and then also having a direct awakening from my grandfather in the lineage, very, very valid and authentic. So valid and authentic that he had 11 brothers and sisters. His sister's granddaughter, who's my cousin, around the same age, got the same activation. And so she and I recognize that. We've been very close all our lives. And so it came through that lineage, right?
Yeah.
The family lineage. And each one of us have walked a path of honoring the sacred teachings we receive, but also developing as healers and intuitives and spiritual guides as well. At this point, it's all integrated in me. But there were nights where I fell asleep when I was going to sleep, and I'd be crying to my husband and saying, am I dishonoring, the tradition by receiving money for what I'm doing? And, I really had to come to terms with that because it wasn't easy coming from the old paradigm to the new paradigm about this. But
Yeah,
I
it's a
did.
difficult transition. I encounter a lot of resistance along the way with that too, with my fire walks and things like that in the community. And they're like, oh, well, So I've had plenty of people gossip about me, you know, flat out fight me, and I just was like,
Right,
listen, from my perspective, the downloads that I get is this, the downloads I get is that this is changing, and that, because once you open up access, once everybody has access, now that's no longer the issue, right? Because the issue before is
right.
people couldn't get access to it unless they came through you. You were the chosen person to like open the door. Then that's kind of unfair to take a toll on the way, on the way to the Garden of Eden, to say, oh, by the way, there's a toll to get in here, that's not right. But if everybody has direct access and direct connection with the mother, now it becomes a sense, okay, I'm gonna, we're brothers and sisters now. And so I'm going to help you out. So I'm going to help you. You're going to help me. What kind of trade do you want to do? We could trade it. We can make any kind of agreement we want to make. We make an
Hmm.
agreement. And our agreement is sacred between the two of us. And it doesn't have to be anything like any agreement we have with anybody else or that anybody else has with anybody else. It's unique.
I'm just showing you the crystal and the light lining up here.
Yes. Going right towards your head.
Right. Look at that. We have a beautiful light shadow on the wall and a Lemurian record
It's like the
keeper,
same
keeper
size.
crystal, exactly the
Same
same
size and shape
size.
too.
Yes, exactly. So we've got light beings here with us today. Uh,
Completely.
and that really, when I trace it all back, the teachers that I encountered were wonderful at helping me activate things. But I remember all the way back to actually when I was born and when I came to Earth, and I was given one message: remember the light. That was my message: remember the light. And I was born, and for 6 months, I didn't know I was on Earth. I was still in the light.
Hmm.
And I watched this with one of my daughters too. It took her until she was 3 years old before she actually landed here. At 6 months, around that time, I remember lying in my crib and a shadow came over the light. My eyes focused on the shadow, and this dimension came into focus
Hmm.
for the very first time. And it was my mother leaning over the crib. And behind my mother were still, the light beings were still there. And they said, we'll always be here. And they didn't disappear. There was something in me with the most fierceness and passion that could ever be gathered on earth that says, I'm never, ever going to let go of this relationship, of this knowing, and this message that I'm carrying with me here. And that created a lot of challenges on this earth plane, to tell you the truth, because I focused on that so solely that I didn't even care what happened to me on earth. I did not develop a sense of physical presence, um, or understanding of anything that was going here on earth. I was taking that message of remembering the light so seriously that I was focused there. And whatever happened here, I mean, all kinds of things happened, but I was just holding on to that light. And it took till I was around 19 before that separation of the two worlds could come together. And I, um, I was in art school. My undergraduate degree is in art, and I was going out to a forest to do a photography assignment. And so I drove out to the park, and I stepped out of the car, had my camera with me, and I walked about 5 steps from the parking lot onto the grass, the path to the woods, and I was stopped short. I was stuck to the ground. I couldn't move my legs. It was like having moon boots with gravity,
Wow.
like I could not move. And Mother Earth started speaking to me then. And she conveyed to me, this is how you come into wholeness. You stay connected to me. I am the light. The world you're in is the light. And as long as we're connected, you'll be whole. You don't have to split between the worlds. And I will help you remember your message. You don't have to grasp it with all the might of your being. It felt like I was holding my breath the first 19 years of my life.
I totally get that because this place is kind of stressful, just saying.
You think? You think?
This place is a
Okay.
little stressful to be in, and for like a little star seed coming here from around some other place in the galaxy, it's like, whoa, this place is crazy.
Right. And
So,
so she held me there for 20 minutes. I couldn't move. People walked by. I don't even know what was going on. It was about 20 minutes.
hmm,
And by the time we were done, she had kind of put me back together in a new way. And I never stopped connecting with her from that moment on. And that is the way I maintain my wholeness, is in the heart of the mother. Um, and all my teachers were male, and they didn't understand this really. They really
hmm.
didn't. So I was maintaining this even while I was, well, kind of remembering all these other spiritual paths. It wasn't new information for me. It was just, oh, let's just wake that up, that memory. And then I started working with this and developing further because it was the only way I felt good on this planet, is to be that connected.
Yeah, when you're not connected to the earth, I mean, my path was through artwork too, by the way. That just came to me.
Oh,
Yeah, because I heard you say that, and I didn't. I took some art in college. I did. I just got a minor in it, but I loved being outside. I loved being outside in nature, doing pastels, painting the scenery,
mm,
painting my garden, or going to the mountain and painting Yosemite, or just whatever. Just being
mm.
outside and in nature and recreating nature on my little piece of paper. It was quite a task.
Yeah, but it feels good to be there. When you're drawing, you're focused on it. You're focused on what's in front of you, and then you actually drop into the spirit of nature in front of you. So the drawing is, and the same way the photography was, it was an entree to setting up your focus so that you could see more deeply into the nature in front of us. And it's a beautiful way of looking at art as an entree in that way. It's like, I think it was Michelangelo who, had that big block of marble and said that he's only revealing the spirit that's in that. And so art to me is a pathway
It is
like that.
definitely a pathway. And as we were talking, I was remembering one painting I did on the backyard of a tree, and it ended up being a feminine tree. It was like it had a curves and it had breasts and it had like this angle, and it was like the tree spirit. I didn't know that then. I was not clued in. I just thought, oh, I'm being so creative, or that is happening. But I was actually seeing like the spirit of this tree and conveying that, seeing it some other way that I didn't understand, the third eye vision that I was not awake to at that time, that's what was happening.
Right. So let's go back to just remembering to feel our feet and seat again, and reconnecting with everyone who's listening to the podcast. And making sure the energy of this is available through the podcasts. Because that's what I like to do. I mean, I live in this energy, and that is one of my gifts. It's like I can help people awaken to this energy easily, easily. It's amazing what happens.
It's omnipresent.
And
It's always there.
and it's just a matter of tuning in. Um, so let's just take a moment and feel it because it's getting stronger. Beautiful. Ah, okay, a nice breath. So when people are listening to podcasts, they're getting information, but they're also getting frequency. And we can relate frequency to frequency. I always talk about speaking energy to energy, light to light, love to love. It's like we're speaking in that frequency language, and this is what the world is opening up to. I mean, science is already there. The physicists have it down already. We don't have to wait for science to catch up with us. We just have to break down like our fears because it's already proven and start living how we know we're communicating with other people and all living beings because it's all energy, as you well know.
And so that those of us who are empathic or have that empathic ability are actually more tapped into that knowing that we are communicating at multiple levels. I think if some people are a little bit more in their mind, let's say they're a little more intellectually centered, it's a little harder to get there, but you can still become aware of it.
Oh, every single person can become aware of it. You don't have to let go of the mind. You don't have to let go of the emotions or the body. It's just an extra sense, extra sensory that you add
Yeah.
on to your spectrum of consciousness. It's kind of like taking the light spectrum, the visible light spectrum, and expanding it a little more in the ultraviolet and the infrared and kind of stretching it out and activating all those senses that we have within us, which if we were back in Tibet or in India, we'd be going through all kinds of crazy postures and breathing practices and everything to awaken these deepened senses. And they're available to us right now without having to do that. That's what's amazing right now. That's what the miracle of this time is that with a little bit of guidance and a little bit of practice and not having to attach yourself to someone or a teaching, you can wake this stuff up.
Yeah,
And
because the rules are changing at this time. I mean, everything is shifting to allow this mass awakening to happen.
yes, it really is.
And
Um,
this is the mass awakening is the process that's going to help us to shift the planet because I feel as we're connected into Mother Earth and we're in this energy that you may be feeling right now as you're listening to the podcast and talking about Mother Earth, she likes that. So as we're connecting in with Mother Earth and we're listening in our own bodies, we'll actually be inspired to the next step that our particular gifts can contribute to this awakening process.
yes, and I'm really starting to be able to imagine a world that's less dark than the one we're in right now. That everything we know about people right now and how we behave, how we think, that's a function of a darker energy. And that really is starting to dissipate. And we are evolving into a different human species because the light's changing. The placement of Mother Earth in the whole galaxy has shifted. And we are receiving all different kinds of frequencies that haven't been around for a while. And that means our body is going to change, our thinking is going to change, our relationships are going to change, everything's going to shift. And so everything that we see happening in the world right now is the crumbling of the old ways. There is going to be a good outcome in everything that we're going through right now. Um, just because we're riding in the heart of this beautiful being and she's heading for a higher frequency and brighter light. So as long as we're riding on her back in her heart, then we're going along for a good ride.
And I like to say another way of talking about that is that the curriculum is changing on Earth because of that too. So some of the curriculum we've had over the last however many thousands of years has been based on some paradigms that are in a lower spectrum of energy than the one we're moving into. And so where those will no longer necessarily be relevant because this is how that's the message I got, and then I was arguing with it at one point. Like, I don't understand, explain it to me. And the message I got about that was, well, Carrie, if the higher dimension that we're moving into is the higher spectrum, is more psychically aware, then that means lying no longer works because everyone is psychically aware that you're lying. So the game's up, like the gig is up, and that goes. So once lying goes, a lot of the other stuff goes too.
Right, total transparency.
Yeah,
There's no possibility of that because everyone
no.
knows everything.
Everybody knows everything, so you can't hide it.
Right,
But then that next to the next level of self-mastery is to, because it doesn't mean that some of the thoughts aren't going to still happen, or some of the behaviors or conditions or things, it just means that now it's transparent and everyone can say, oh, you're working through this pattern. Okay, well, let me help you with that. Or do you want my help? I know something about that. Or, so it's like more collaborative with all of this matrix that, and actually the recognition that it's that there's patterns and then there's people. And then there, the people, the soul is beautiful, perfect and wise, and then we come into this to receive these conditions to work through them, right? So it's imperfect and then it's perfect and it's imperfectly perfect. It's all the
right.
same.
Well, that speaks to the love. That speaks to a loving community that is working on behalf of everyone's best interest. That
Yes.
that to me is the sacred circle. That to me is, and there's some of those indigenous tribes, if someone goes off and does something that's harmful, they don't punish them, they put them in the middle of the circle and they help raise their frequency.
Yeah, they give them lots of love because they know that you're just, if you're doing that behavior or thing or that thing, you're in a lower band and you just need to rise up. You rise up, that
Right.
falls away.
So that's what I think what we're learning now. And
Mm.
and that a lot of people are waking up to this. A lot aren't. We're going through a really tough time right now. Um, it'll be okay.
Just
It'll
breathe.
be okay, yes.
Keep putting
Okay.
space in it. Just keep
Right.
breathing through it.
Right. Creating space, like you say, and be grounded because the more aligned you are with Mother Earth. So, Mother Earth has an axis. She spins on her axis. Her body spins on an axis. And that spin and spinning along her own axis is what keeps her in harmonic relationship with all the other planets and the sun. And there is this spin and an axis that each one of us has. And it's been spoken of as the toroidal field and then the Merkaba. And so when we ground with Mother Earth and we really allow our energy to exchange with her, then that central axis arises within us. We align, all the chakras align along that central channel. And the energy comes up. We're looking at energy coming up from the earth instead of energy coming down first from above. We're dropping our energy roots into the earth, receiving the energy from below, rising up, clearing through all the heavy energy in our field, in our body, in our organs, in our cells. And when that energy clears through in its very intelligent way, you don't have to tell it what to do, it knows exactly where to go. And when that clears through, you find yourself centered along your axis and in a dynamic, living balance between you and the cosmos. And this toroidal field fountains up around you and circulates back. Picture a fountain where the energy goes in 360-degree direction. And then it cycles back down and comes back up through the earth and back up through you. And that axis reaches all the way through the central sun and beyond into the greater cosmos, into the greater wisdom. Your energy goes deep down into the center of Mother Earth, which is then connected to the harmony of the galaxy and the planets, and you come into your greatest alignment. And then when you finally let go and your body's balanced, your mind's balanced, your emotions are balanced, and you're aligned with your spirit, you become a planet, a being who is spinning in harmony and beauty with the rest of existence.
Mm.
And then this, you kind of shift into this Merkaba state, which is your vehicle. And at that point, your consciousness is free, clear, cleansed, to then penetrate even deeper mysteries of the cosmos and of the divine than we can even ever imagine. Because then we need entree through frequency and energy to get into these new and different levels of consciousness that are there. And so this is a combination of my work with the Taoist, the Qigong, the Andean system of working with the earth and the reciprocity, and the Sufi system of the work with the light and the mystic ecstasy. It all comes together in this one practice of first grounding, releasing, exchanging with Mother Earth, clearing and cleansing the heavy energy. And I know in your last podcast, was it with Infinity?
Yes, yes.
Oh my God, you guys did such a great conversation speaking to the heaviness of the energy that people collect. I really recommend that people listen to that because it was an excellent conversation on how much heaviness there is. And you can't really do anything without cleansing that and recognizing what we can collect in an hour. I mean, I say, you know, you have to go to the bathroom several times a day because you've collected heavy stuff in your body. We have to do that constantly with our consciousness because we're collecting all this heavy
Oh, yeah.
energy
This is
material.
making me laugh because, like, I remember Alberto Vialdo, who, I studied with him. He
Uh-huh.
said at one point, he says, everyone's always trying to give all this heavy stuff to God. And God's like, what do you want me to do with that? You have to give that to your mother
Right, right,
because she's the one who mulches and she takes all that
right,
energy and transmutes the energy. And everyone's all trying to offer it. I give this to God. I give this to God. And God's like, I can't do anything with that. You give that
right,
to your mother.
right. And then as soon as she digests that and sends
It's
it back to
amazing.
us as light, she lifts us right up into the Father. And
Yes.
then the divine love of the mother and father, the divine marriage happens within us, and that our whole field expands. And then we truly become the children of the divine mother and father, the children of the universe. And then we're no longer orphans. We're no longer lost or
Mm.
feel alone. And my teacher used to call mankind the great orphan. Like that's how we feel. Like who dropped us here on earth? You know, I'm all alone here. And that was never meant to be. That's just a dark form of consciousness. We're really connected. And so that's a practice that I use with all my clients and
Mm.
in all my classes. And then something really miraculous occurs when you do this with a whole group of people, and each person is centered along their axis, and their energy is cleansed and cleared. It creates a unified field, the field that creates a greater axis, and the whole group is able to become more individualized and more unified. Both polarities work. You know, you become more of
Yes.
who you are
Hmm.
within the context of this unified field. And so I always say the sacred circle is my modality. I mean, that's how I like to work with groups so that we all benefit, we all become more the expression of who we are, and we also live within this context of the unity consciousness. And
Unity is not conformity.
right, right, absolutely not.
Because
It's
like
it's
notice how during this awakening process that we're going through, these teachings like you're talking about are coming forward. We feel this connection with the earth. This big message of unity is being put out there. And we have the emergence of human design type, gene keys,
mhm,
understand yourself, take the journey. You're a unique piece of the puzzle to heaven on earth, as my friend Jennifer F likes to say. You
mhm.
are that. And it's like by surrendering to the Mother Earth, by surrendering to Great Spirit, surrendering yourself, what you think you are, you unfold what you actually are.
Yes. Yes.
It's a greater gift.
It really is. Yeah, one of the issues is people can try to think their way through this process, and
It's so hard.
and, and
It's like
thinking
gung,
is, yeah,
gung,
it's so
gung.
tricky. At some point you just bang your head against the wall.
My mine does that. I still try to think my
Right.
way. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to be doing? I'm thinking it's this, and it's like, okay, I was thinking. Stop.
Right, right. And so I have a really strong mind, and I always need something to help me get out of my mind. And so, like, just even rubbing my feet against the ground
Yeah, I do that.
has a sensorial effect where it drops me out of that spinning mind and into the wholeness of my body and being. Now, the problem is that we have so much self-loathing for our bodies,
Mm,
so much in this culture. And I'm so thrilled to see a lot of that being busted up now. I mean, it is
mm,
really busting, but it was a strong thing so that self-loathing, either for the body, for whoever you are, was just so predominant that if you ask someone to come back to themselves, all they met was that part that hated themselves.
ah,
And they would
so
say,
painful. Yeah.
it's so painful. So why would I want to come back there? Let me just keep diverting, because this is less painful than that. And so we need ways of learning to come back to ourselves, to our true selves, and not the self-loathing part. And to me, that's a big hump for people to get over, um, and a focus of where we need to work to help them know that there is a part of you that doesn't hate yourself. You have been conditioned. This is part of the conditioning and programming that's on the planet. It helps other people control you. It helps you deflate and let other people take up more space, more air, more of your energy. And it's just a controlling program, and it's not you. It really isn't.
Yeah, it's
And
conditioning. And it's
yes.
learned conditioning and programmed into your little brain, with television commercials and
Hmm.
all of that stuff is so profound. And we think it's just like people that go to sleep with the television on, and I'm always saying, I don't think that's a good idea. Don't go to sleep with that on. Is whatever is happening on there is going into your brain without you even consciously realizing it's going in there.
Right. And there's all that subliminal messaging that's going on through there too. There's a lot of mind control going on in our culture that you can't see through until you see the energy of it. We are really, I don't think people really appreciate the change that this world is going through right now, because
It's tremendous.
this has been set in since the last catastrophe 10,000 years ago. So everything was meant to try to control so that we don't die. Now we don't have to control about preventing death. We just have to understand death.
Get in harmony with death and the cycles of life and get in harmony with our own desires and the collective, like you said, the solar system.
Hmm.
Like if Mother Earth just decided, well, I don't really feel like spinning that way today, I want to spin a different way. Well,
Boom, we're
the
off.
whole thing goes off, right?
Right.
So this is really about self-mastery and getting aligned with each of our individual natures and purposes and gifts and staying in that lane. Like
Hmm.
be in your lane and stay in your lane. And what is your lane? And I ask myself this question often. So I often make this prayer to the north and I say, align me to my true station. because once I'm aligned to my true station, I'll know my purpose in that moment, that
Mm,
day.
beautiful. Can really feel that in you, and how strong that is.
It's so gorgeous.
Okay.
Oh, it's emerging. It's merging all these soul's gifts with this physical matter, which is essentially Mother Earth. It's aligning my consciousness with hers, actually, in this physical. The meeting is the physical body. I mean, she's
The
the air we breathe. She's the food we eat. She's the water we drink. She is us. She's the touch. She's the sensation. She's this, and it's a way, she offers us a way to know ourselves as a soul through her.
beautifully spoken, beautifully spoken. That resonance with her. And the same way I'm resonating with feeling your sovereignty, I'm then feeling my sovereignty. She's there to resonate her sovereignty to us. And that's one of the things that we're learning. I mean, why would we even incarnate here if it wasn't to learn from her?
Exactly.
I mean,
That's an obvious, right? I have the same question. It seems so obvious, but it's usually the obvious things that we just like so resistant to. Like, of course, we're here to learn from Mother Earth. And we should start by learning about what she's already gifted us, like in the jungle. She's already
mm,
gifted us a whole medicine cabinet in the jungle of wise plant teachers. Why are we trying to recreate solutions instead of just understanding and learning what's already here? This is where I think we'll be making a shift, I hope, out of the self-importance of having to be the one that created the thing into
mhm.
the one that understands and learns and surrenders and humbles. This is her world. This is the Divine Mother's world, and we're here to learn about it.
And we're living in it. And it's the same thing when we look around and forget where we're living and how to take care of it. Uh, we need to remember we're living within her heart and become aware of the consciousness that surrounds us so beautifully.
And so many
And that,
blessings to her for allowing us to be here and do that and be so asleep while we're doing it.
right, I know. And that is a function of the dark cycle that we've gone through and that we're just emerging out of, and we go through these cycles. And it's really good to take a look at it as this is what darkness looks like. This is the form that darkness takes. These are the thought forms it creates. These are the emotions it creates. It creates a sense of needing to control, dominate, and try to protect ourselves because we're not able to see our true connections. And this is what darkness looks like. And we're going to find out what lightness looks like now for many people. So we're growing in that direction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, we went down to the bottom of the swimming pool, and as you know, like when you jump back up, you can go even higher. So we'll see what happens, but I think that's what's going to happen. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom on the show, Sarah. I know I've kept you way past your time, and I appreciate you staying. And I just always love our conversation, so I just always want to hold on just a
I
little
know.
longer.
I agree. I am not rushing anywhere.
So tell us a little bit about how people work with you. I know that you resonate with empathic people and this earth connection, and I'm so with you there. How do
Oh,
people
yeah.
get started with you? I know your podcast, of course.
Right. And I do have a program called the Enlightened Empath Program. I have, if you look at all the types of empaths there are, I'm every single one of them. There, you discover a new empath type, I'm already there. I'm every one of them. And so by learning some of the energetic techniques, like you were talking about with Infinity, about energetic cleansing that builds your boundary. So I also believe that empaths are really a preview of the future evolved human, because we are waking up all these super sensitive kinds of perceptions.
Mm.
And we need to learn how to put them in perspective, how to shape them, the ethics of it, how to work with our energy so that it brings those perceptual abilities into focus instead of feeling of like a victim of the sensitivities. It empowers us.
Mm.
And so there's a whole learning process to go through. And so I have a year-long program to help people understand their empathic nature and become empowered by it. Um, I do individual sessions all over the phone, and I do medical intuitive sessions, soul retrieval, kind of everything that there is. Whatever your guide is wanting you to do, I do. I tune into the person's guide. They can say I'm coming with a shoulder problem, and I say your guide wants you to know this. And we conduct the session collaboratively. So I always begin a session with the grounding, with the clearing, so the person can come back in contact with themselves, and we journey together. It's always collaborative. I don't like the power dynamic of someone telling someone who they are, what they should do, or any way they should go about their life. So it becomes a conversation with each person centered along their axis, each person connected to their self, and I help the person connect to their higher being or their higher wisdom, and then we converse and we reflect off of each other, and an understanding comes through, and a healing comes through. And so we'll find out all the dimensions of whatever the presenting issue is. So they can come for a past life session or a soul retrieval or medical intuitive or empath coaching. It kind of all comes down to the same thing. Let's see what your higher being's trying to say. Let's connect you to that. Let's see what you receive, and I'll help you figure out, kind of weave this together into your next steps. So those are how my individual sessions go. And then I have classes that they're a series of classes throughout the year. I have some intro classes that are shorter for empaths that want to kind of enter into this work. They're like 4-week sessions. And then I have deeper, more spiritually, um, I would say, in-depth sessions that go in 6-week sessions. So people can sign up for any number of things. Um, a long time ago, I set the criteria for any person I work with, whether it's individually, in a group, and I do retreats around the world too. Not right now, but
Not right now. Well,
I'll
virtual
resume that.
retreats.
I am doing virtual retreats. But the criteria is you need to be engaged in your own self-growth, that you're not going to turn your power over to me, because I'm going to turn it right back to you. And if you don't want to be engaged in that way in your being, go find someone else. So I set that criteria up 35 years ago. And so the people that find their way to me are the ones that want to really work in this collaborative, engaged way.
I love that. Yeah, I found myself in that same that same place of setting a similar rule for my business because it's really juicy to work with people who are ready, people who
Mm-hmm.
really want it, and people who are like, I'm ready for transformation. Because the people that are ready and they'll actually do the work, and when they actually do the work, what happens is miracles.
Right.
And that's
Right.
exciting to witness. I'm in the juice, man. I want to be with the miracles. I will hang out with people in the trenches all day long if if they're looking for their miracle and they're really working at it. I will be there like with that person. And it's really challenging when somebody kind of wants it but kind of doesn't. Kind of wants
Right.
it but kind of doesn't. It's like,
Right.
well, you
Yeah.
got to be, you got to be able to like strip all your clothes off really seriously. Like you know, to the
Yes.
spirit, to great spirit, not to me, but to
Right.
great spirit. I didn't realize that sounded kind of weird, but it's like you've got to be willing to take it all off for Divine Mother, for the great spirit, like whatever's needed. Just be like in that place of, I am ready for my miracles. I am ready for my beautiful. understanding of life, I am so ready. Then it's gorgeous. Freaking
It,
love it, man.
it is.
If you're
So,
tepid, you sort of get tepid results. So,
right. So, and anyone could be at any stage in the path as long as they're
yeah,
engaged. It doesn't
engaged.
matter.
You could be a
Right.
total beginner, but that's actually, I think beginner's mind's the best no matter what,
Uh-huh.
even if you think you know a lot of stuff.
It is. So that's the criteria. So
I love
connect,
that.
connect. I'm very open. You can find everything on my website, spirithealonline.com.
Have you written any
And
books yet?
I have 5 books sitting here. What happens is I'm so in the moment. I write a bunch of blogs.
5 books sitting here uncompleted?
uh, They're kind of complete, but you know what? I look at them and say, oh, well, that energy's from 2 years ago. That energy's from last year. That
Ah,
energy's from the year. And so, like, they don't need that. They need something current. So I'm always like in this current stream. And so when you're in
um,
classes with me, the we have a class page for each class where people can converse, and I write a lot on the class page. A lot is given in the class itself. The recording is there on the page, and so you end up with current time frequency
mm,
in the teaching. And that feels really good to me. It feels like so fresh and new and nothing's old. There may be people that would benefit from the old stuff, but the weekly classes are so potent that compared to that, it's like, oh, am I really going to write some old stuff? The fresh frequency that I do write is in Sedona Journal, and that's called the Empaths Portal. And I channel the heart of the mother about empaths. And so I may compile that as a book because those are gathering momentum and they still feel fresh. But I'm so tuned into how each day is like brand new energy that I just, you know, I write it all down and then I go, if someone wants to take this and do something with it, go ahead.
Oh,
So,
I love that. I totally understand that and I love it. And yeah, I'm sure there's lots of people that could benefit from what you think is old because that's for them, that's just brand new. So, but I understand your point of view too. I also feel that like that quandary, like it's already done, it's already shifted, already transformed past that. So it's
right.
not relevant anymore, but it is relevant in some way. There's a thread, but yeah, gosh,
I
I love
think
that.
I think there will be a book soon. I mean, one of the reasons I started the podcast, which was like, where did that come from? The most amazing thing about the podcast are the people I get to talk to, interviewing on the podcast. I love it. Love that. And
Maybe the
so,
podcast is like the new book,
right,
because it's
right.
frequency too, because we're speaking it.
Right. That's what I feel like. It
Yeah.
feels like, that's another way of
Spoken word
getting.
traditions.
Yes, it is. It's in the oral tradition. And the energy's going out there and it's contributing to the world that way. I mean, books do that too. I mean, I love reading. I'm a reader. I actually read other people's books. And so, but for some reason, it's like, oh God, I really have to go. I wish someone would take my material and put it into a book. That's what I wish.
Okay, well, we'll just put that out there as a request. Somehow we lost her. Let's see. What happened to did our
That would
internet?
that would be my because I write a lot and it's all there. Oh yeah, look. Oh, you froze for a second.
Yeah, we froze
Okay.
for a second. That's okay. Well, yeah,
Okay.
so let's put
Oh,
that
mine
request
just
out
went
there.
unstable. Okay,
Oh,
start
can you hear
again.
me?
Okay, now we are. We're back. No, we're
Okay.
not. Okay.
No, it's kind of in and out. I wonder
Yeah,
what's happening.
we're here now though.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's put that out as a request for your book that somebody comes along and supports you with that, and you get one out there because I know there are a lot of people will benefit from that. And in the meantime, I will share all your links in the show notes. And so thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for staying with us. And I hope you got a lot out of this. And I'm just going to ask you if you did get a gold nugget out of this broadcast, please leave us a comment about it. Please share what you got so we know. Share with us your wisdom. Share with us the insight you got. And if you felt the frequencies, tell us. Tell us and share about that because we want to know about that. And leave us a review and share it out to anybody that you think would benefit, because that's how we spread the good vibes. So we share all this stuff out to people. So thank you so much for your support in that. And we're going to give kisses on the way out. Sarah, do you want to join me in giving kisses?
Of course, and blessings, kisses and
Kissings,
blessings.
blessings, blessings with the kisses. Here they come.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
everybody. Love you, everybody.
Love you.
And we'll see you next time on Soul Nectar Show. Bye for now.